If you're considering buying a house in Central Texas, which is San Antonio, Austin, New Braunfels, all the surrounding area, this video is for you. I will be breaking down the transaction as a whole, A to Z, what it takes from the moment you go under contract to the moment you have your keys in your hand and you're moving into your new home. I know this process could be a little complicated. I will try to do my best to simplify it. If you were my mother, if you were my father, or a close relative, I would want you to hear this information. Why? So through the whole process, you will not feel lost and blind. My name is Roman. I am your local Texas real estate resource. I'm a licensed mortgage officer and I'm a licensed realtor. I've closed many transactions, hundreds of them. And I think the biggest source of confusion for many of the buyers is the fact they just do not understand all the details, so they feel lost. Let's jump into it. Number one, the step and the most important step that you need to really pay attention to is picking the right team to represent you. Your team is made up of the realtor and also of the loan officer. And so depending on who your team is, you will either have a smooth transaction, you're going to be able to close on time, and you'll be able to negotiate a pretty solid deal. We are in a buyer's market right now. And so a lot of my clients, whether I'm helping them as a realtor or a loan officer or both, I always want to give them a full scoop of the market condition and the leverage that they have on their side so we can secure the best deal and we can leverage in the negotiation to make sure we get them to pay as least amount of money as possible in closing. So picking your team. Before you start falling in love with the house on Zillow, on Realtor.com, any of those big party sources where you see the listing, and this is what most people do. They scroll for a couple weeks, couple months. They randomly select an agent, random loan officer. They have a bad experience. It casts shadow over the whole industry, and they are not happy. And so to avoid this, before you do anything, do your due diligence, do your research, make sure you are partner up with the right people who will have your best interest in mind. Number two, this is where it gets fun. This is where we begin to see the pre-approval, the budget. We begin to match you up with the proper loan product. And this is also very important. After you choose your team, the right realtor, the right loan officer, now we are choosing the right loan product. We're figuring out how much you want to put down, what type of rate you're going to get, what type of terms you're going to get. And so before you go house shopping, you want to be pre-approved. The worst thing that can happen to a buyer is you fall in love with the property, you get it under contract, and then you figure out you cannot afford it. And the whole thing becomes a mess, huge waste of time. Trust me, you want to avoid doing that. So be pre-approved before you start looking for the house. And I can definitely help you out with that as well. Number three, this is where you actually go out, look at houses and look at neighborhoods and make sure you are lined up with the right property. So let's talk about this. When you go house hunting, it has to be a strategic search. It's not enough just to look at the exterior, to look at the pictures on Zillow or on the MLS, pick the right neighborhood. That's not enough. You have to be more strategic. What are the HOA fees? Is there any flood zones? Is the property backing to a busy road? What is the tax rate there? All of these things are going to be very important when it comes to buying the right property. And not only that, I tell all of my buyers, you have to buy with the perspective of selling, meaning that every buyer in some point will become a seller. And when you become a seller, you want to be positioned so your property is highly desired in that neighborhood. So we're talking about a strategic house hunting process. You're not wasting time looking at properties with damaged foundation, that have some kind of big 5G tower in the backyard. You're looking at the right houses. Number 4, this is where we're going to be going into the first round of negotiations. We're writing an offer, we're setting the terms, and this is really where your agent comes into place, where if you have a great agent, they're going to be good at negotiating, they're going to be great at communication, and they're going to know how to work with the agent on the other side. This is key. In this first round of negotiations, this is where you decide, are you getting a good deal, mediocre deal, or are you getting nothing, right? You're overpaying for the property. And so there's a lot of different ways to approach this, right? How do you negotiate? Do you haggle? Do you lowball? Do you bring your best foot forward? All of this depends on that local market, local neighborhood where you are at, and the competition in that neighborhood. Let's go to the next point. After you secure the contract and the seller signs that contract, you have to understand the time begins to start ticking. There's a time clock. You have 3 days to submit earnest money. And once you submit that earnest money, you also have about a 10-day option period. So it is key. Remember, after the seller signs the contract, that goes into the title company, and you have 3 days to submit earnest money. Earnest money is 1% of the contract purchase price. On top of that, you have about $100. That's an option fee. That option fee gives you a way out of the contract, and so you can get your earnest money back if something negative happens during the inspection negotiations. Let's move on to the next step, booking inspections. You want to book an inspector on the second day of the contract. You do not want to waste time. As soon as seller signs, you deposit earnest money. Next step, find a credible inspector who will do an inspection within a day or two. You don't want to get your inspection a day or two before the option period ends. Why? Because you don't have enough time to evaluate that report. And so an inspection is going to cost you anywhere from $500 to $800. And so depending on the features of the home that you are inspecting. Let's say the report comes back horrible. There's a lot of deal breakers there. The foundation, the roof, HVAC, heating, cooling, plumbing. There's major problems. What do? You have 2 options. You either ask the seller to do repairs, or you terminate the contract and you get your earnest money back. You have options, but it's very important that you stay within that deadline. Let's go to the next process. After you negotiate the repairs, let's say there wasn't any deal breakers in there, but there was minor things with electrical, minor things with the HVAC system, and you said, hey, seller, in order for me to proceed forward, I'm going to need $5,000 from you to cover all of these deficiencies. Next step is going to be secure that on paper in the contract, sign an amendment where you register that, everybody signs. Next, you move on to the appraisal. The appraisal is ordered after the inspection comes back. You don't want to get the property appraised before you get the inspection results. Why? Because you're just going to waste money if the property is bad. And so the appraisal is another out-of-pocket cost for you. The lender is going to want you to prepay for the appraisal report anywhere from $500 to $800 coming out of your pocket. Lender will hire the appraiser. They're going to put a value on that property. And if the value is higher than what you're paying for the property, you are winning. You are in the green. You're good to go. If the value comes in lower, let's say you have a contract price for $300,000. The appraisal comes back at $280,000. There's a $20,000 difference. What do? Well, if your agent was doing their job, they would have put a appraisal contingency in that contract, and you would be able to go back for another round of negotiations to have the seller drop the price down. That's also another very important thing to consider. If the seller does not want to drop the price and you do not have an appraisal contingency, what do? Do you terminate and lose all the inspection money you put into it? Or do you bring money out of pocket to make sure that the lender is happy? So make sure that these details are written down in the contract. After the appraisal comes back, your only mission as the buyer is to continue communicate with the lender. The lender will be sending you conditions. Hey, we need new pay stubs. We need a letter of explanation for this or that. And so it is very important for you as the buyer to be on top of your emails, your phone calls, and your text messages. If for some reason you are not answering all of these requests, then the whole process gets delayed. You're going to have to push the closing date. And if the seller says, I do not want to push the closing date, then you might lose the deal. And after all of this said and done, the last step and the most exciting is going to be scheduling the closing appointment. Once the lender calls you, if I'm your lender, I'll be calling you and saying, congratulations, we have a clear to close. And once you have the clear to close, you can celebrate and do your little victory dance. You go to the closing appointment, you bring the money you need for closing there, either a check, or you do a wire to the title company, and then you get your keys and you are moving into your property. Friends, this is a very simplified form, but it gives you an understanding of how the transaction flows. From the very beginning, finding your team, to signing all the paperwork and getting your keys, is exactly how the transaction flows. Friends, if you have any questions about your situation, can I qualify? Am I ready to buy a home? What is the best neighborhood that's going to retain equity? I'm available for a personal one-on-one free consultation. My information is all below. Give me a call anytime. You can schedule directly on my calendar. I'll see you on the next video.